It's another Friday night and good evening. Welcome, I'm Umutu Gajaga. This is Qtv News. Thanks for joining us. First, the main local, international and sports news headlines. First, the drug law enforcement officials make the largest ever seizure of cocaine in the country's history. The First Lady's Foundation on Friday presented medical equipment to the Ministry of Health. The Qtv Municipal Council KMC has presented 30 waste bins to their street cleaners to better equip their cleaners in the effort to keep the streets and the municipality clean. The former Director General of the now defunct National Intelligence Agency appears before the TRRC to recount his time in office. And in international news, the deadly conflict in Ethiopia's Tigray region shows no sign of abating as the federal government announces it has killed some of the rebellious region's leaders. In sports news, two Ivory Coast international footballers, one of whom is making footballing history, have made significant transfers as the European transfer window reopens. And still in sport, Senegalese side Teungueth FC, the first team from their country to make the group stages of the CAF Champions League, have been handed a very tough draw. Those were the main news headlines, and now the news in detail. Welcome and thanks for joining us. This is Qtv News. Officials of the Drug Law Enforcement Agency of the Gambia have intercepted a container loaded with cocaine at the Banjul seaport, according to officials of the agency. The 2 tons of suspected cocaine intercepted is the largest seizure of cocaine in the country's history. Babukar C went there, and this is his report.
The container was intercepted on Thursday by officials at the seaports. According to them, 3 containers from Ecuador in South America loaded with industrial salt was bound for the Gambia, but believed the cocaine was in transit to somewhere else.
These are the bags that we suspect to be containing cocaine. And not only suspected, we subject this to 2 different test methods. That is the use of the TrueNAC device, which is a scanner that tells you whether a substance is cocaine or so, and it can detect about 400 different types of substances. We use the TrueNAC to scan this, and it shows cocaine positive. And we also use the color test to determine it, and it also shows positive. But all these are what we call field tests. So these things have to be subjected to confirmatory test, because that is what will produce the document that will be admitted in court. Now, if you look at it also further, you observe it, you realize that this one is whiter than this one. This one is kind of off-white, all right? But the difference is so difficult to trace. But we are very diligent. We search this container, and up to the second to last row, that is row before this, it was observed that some of the bags are a little bit pushed ahead. They are not aligned. So there we took pictures of that, and then we proceed the search, and we discovered that there are bags that are containing powder, unlike salt.
The suspected cocaine loaded in 118 25-kilogram bags were shown to the media, and the forensic investigative team took samples to run a preliminary test before it was weighed to determine the exact kilograms of suspected cocaine, all under the full gaze of the media.
What I'm going to do is, when you are inside the container here, they brought a bag there which was different from the other bags, which we suspect is salt. We will sample that one and do a preliminary test on it to see the difference between when something is suspected to be cocaine or has some components of cocaine and a substance that doesn't have those ones. So we'll do that so that you see the 2 different bags, the contents of those 2 bags, okay? So that's what we are going to do. Before we do the sampling, we will do the preliminary test, and we'll use one machine which is called TrueNAC that will even tell you exactly if cocaine is in the bag. It will indicate and it will written cocaine.
The press was given the opportunity to witness how the preliminary tests were conducted, and after a few minutes, the machine reads.
The first one, it says inconclusive. That means this substance is not in the library because it's not a suspected substance. So now we put something there, we test another bag which shows cocaine. So that means it has some substance of cocaine.
The public relations officer of the Drug Law Enforcement Agency, Usman Sediba, has this to say.
The container or containers are said to be containing 1,000 bags of industrial salt each. The said containers originated from Guayaquil port, which is in Ecuador, and were transported through Max Line Shipping Company, and were transshipped through the port of Algeciras in Spain before final arrival in Banjul on the 1st of January 2021. And all four were shipped by ESU Worldwide Ecuador SA and consigned to Ballot Transport and Logistics as their local partner. However, in-house bill of lading was issued by ESU Worldwide to the actual consignee, which is Circuit Long Trading Limited, with Mr. Sharif Jai as the contact person. That was their contact person in the Gambia.
According to PRO Sediba, the person to whom the container was supposed to be delivered to is at large. However, another person who was assigned to clear the container from the ports has been arrested and is helping them with their investigations.
Initial finding into the matter suggests that the container belongs to one Banta Keita, who holds a French passport with the number 17CE91360. According to his passport biodata, that is the biographical data, he is said to be born on the 3rd January 1984. He is a resident of Fajara M section. Sharif, who was their local contact person, is presently in custody, helping the officers with the investigation, while the manhunt for Mr. Banta Keita continue.
The latest CISO is record-breaking in the history of the Gambia, beating the Bonto village CISO of 2 tons of cocaine in June 2010. On that occasion, officials arrested a dozen suspected traffickers and seized large quantities of cash and arms. This is the second CISO of cocaine at the country's only seaport, with the last coming 6 months ago when 48 blocks of cocaine was seized from a food container. The West African sub-region has long been a suspected cocaine transit hub, with significant seizures in Senegal, Guinea-Bissau and Cape Verde within the last 2 years. This latest seizure by Gambian authorities demonstrates that drug traffickers are still prepared to use the region as a transit hub to get drugs to their main markets in Europe. Babu Karsi, QTV News.
The First Lady's Foundation on Friday presented medical equipment to the Ministry of Health at a ceremony held at the medical store in Kotu. Babu Karsi tells us more.
According to the Ministry of Health, the donation will help strengthen the country's health sector, which has been severely affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. At the presentation, the acting CEO of FAB Foundation, Fatou Cisse, commended the First Lady for complementing her husband's efforts to take part in national development.
These are equipments that are highly needed at this point in time, especially that we have the second wave of COVID-19 all over the world. So this is very timely for us as a foundation. Health in general is one of our main objectives. As you know, for the past 3 to 4 years, FAB Foundation has been working tirelessly in the health sector. And today, mashallah, with the benevolence of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, His Highness, the King and his family, we pray and thank them for their support.
The consular officer of the Saudi embassy resident in Dhaka, Banda Al-Faifi, says the donation comes as a result of the cordial relationship between the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the Gambia.
This medical assistance provided by Al Balsam Care and Cure Foundation comes in coordination with King Salman Relief Center to mitigate the effects of the corona pandemic on the brotherly Gambian people, and it's affirmed that strengthening of the relationship between the government of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the government of the Republic of Gambia.
Dr. Ahmad Lamin Samate, the Minister of Health, says health is one of the government's top priorities, while commending the First Lady for donating, among other items, a machine that is not available in the country.
It has paid dividend in the sense that we've seen a whole lot of medications, a whole lot of consumables, intensive care beds. But what makes this donation very special, as doctors, when we see a list of donations, we are very, very excited. But we look for specific things. And as soon as I saw those items, I started smiling. We have 2 blood gas analyzers on this list, and as we speak to you, we don't have any in this country. We're trying to get some. So seeing this makes me very, very excited. We thank you very much.
The First Lady, Fatouba Barrow, explains her ambition and the love she has for the country.
We are just doing it because we have passion for people. We love the Gambians. That's the reason why we are doing all these things. And we will thank our partners, especially the Saudi government, the Kingdom of Saudi. This is the second time they're sending in a large quantity of materials from Saudi after the visit that we made in Saudi last year.
The Fatoumata Barrow Foundation is a charity formed in 2017 which supports poor communities, disadvantaged women, youths, children, and vulnerable groups in the Gambia. The foundation supports key areas in health and social welfare through education and social development programs. Babukar Sise, QTV News.
The Kanifing Municipal Council KMC has presented 30 waste bins to their street cleaners at a presentation which was held at its office. The aim is to better equip their cleaners in the efforts to keep the streets clean. I attended the presentation ceremony, and this is my report. A crucial tool needed after cleaning the highways of litter are waste bins. These bins are expected to be used for that very purpose. The KMC has embarked on a program of street cleaning, especially along the highways. Laming Sanyang, the Director of Services, explains.
I just want to take this opportunity to appeal to the residents of this municipality to support us or collaborate us in trying to ensure that we have a clean municipality. This year is going to be year of enforcement.
Collecting waste from the 19 wards of the municipality has been ongoing since the Mbalit project was launched in July 2019. Tons of waste is collected daily and disposed of, ensuring that both the households and the streets are kept clean. Mayor Talib Ahmed Bensouda says their aim is to make the KMC the cleanest city in Africa.
This is another development yet again, which is the introduction of 30 mobile street bins for our street cleaners. Now, KMC is regarded as one of the cleanest municipalities here in the Gambia, if not the cleanest municipality in the Gambia. And it is all possible because of these daily heroes who traverse our streets and clean after us. But please, residents of the municipality, we all have a responsibility to make sure this municipality is kept clean. Cleanliness, like they say, is godliness. And it will only benefit us, the residents, if the municipality is sanitary and is clean, because it directly affects our health.
Despite their efforts, though, public attitude towards waste management remains bad. Without that change in attitude, the aims of the mayor and his team will be an uphill task. People continue to litter the streets indiscriminately. It is quite common to see litter being discarded from vehicles along every street. In truth, many treat the streets as open waste bins. Even gutters made for water passage are littered with all sorts of waste. When it rains, the litter cascades onto the roads, in and along the streets. All sorts of rubbish can be seen. Paper, empty cans, leftover foods are visible. Others make it a habit of gathering small waste and burning it to the detriment of the environment. Our anti-littering laws seem to only languish on the cells, gathering dust because it is hardly enforced, if at all. While these waste bins are a welcome addition to the fight, it remains to be seen whether a program of civic education will be instituted alongside it. We will take a short break, and still to come, we have local and international news. Welcome back. The Director General of the State Intelligence Service, Usman Sow, appeared before the Truth Commission on Wednesday and Thursday to narrate his knowledge and role in the now defunct NIA, where he served in different portfolios. Sow has been adversely mentioned by some witnesses as having witnessed gross human rights violations during the former regime. Babukar C. tells us more.
Director General Usman Sow told the Commission that he was among the first batch of recruits who were trained to join the NIA in 1995 and served the institution for 15 years in several departments. In a long drawn-out session with the lead counsel, DG Sow accepted that some of the roles that the NIA played in drug-related issues in the country, the immigration and movement of people that the State Secret Service was actively participating, were not necessarily their role, despite taking a lead role sometimes in arresting and detaining people in the said areas. In a session in which the chairman had to intervene occasionally and which spanned to 2 days, the witness continuously denied witnessing any torture or drug dealings involving the NIA agents, despite heading the investigation team. When evidence were brought forward showing how the NIA dealt with a drug law enforcement officer who was accused of drug dealings, the witness apologized for the treatment handed out to the officer, who was said to have been tortured and left to run naked from the NIA headquarters to the police headquarters.
I wish to apologize to Lamin Kabo
Lamin Kabu
for the torture that he was subjected to in the course of an investigation that was involving a matter, drugs in this case, drugs of immense national security interest at this time. I would use this opportunity to also apologize by the same token, the sister service.
On the infamous torture machine, known to many as talk-through, the witness said he has been working at the NIA for 12 years before setting eyes on that machine. The NIA director went on to deny that when he took over, he concealed various evidence at the NIA, including destroying the machines that were used to torture people. After yet another back and forth with the lead counsel, he finally accepted destroying the evidence.
Yes, I removed the instruments of torture.
And you painted the torture chamber from what it was to something else.
Yes, I did.
You completely changed the character of that room from a torture chamber to a simple room.
Normal office. Agreed.
Director General Sow accepted that there was a special torture room inside the NIA building.
When I took over the service, I was on a tour of the complex until when I reached that room, that department. I entered. I saw what.
How did you feel when you saw what you saw?
Shocked.
The witness at an incident last year when the TRRC took a surprise visit to the NIA headquarters in Banjul. When the commissioners met the witness, who took them round the place, told the commissioners that there was no torture happening at the NIA. After a second time of being asked at the TRRC, the witness changed his statement.
If during the visit I have said otherwise, I wish to now state under oath that with now the level of knowledge and understanding and what I know to be, I wish to state in place of the earlier statement during the visit, we take my today's statement in place of that statement.
The Director General of the NIA, now SIS, was later asked to answer about other evidence that was destroyed at the NIA when he took over office in 2017, but either denied having any knowledge or could not remember. According to the investigations done by the TRRC, over 571 detentions were made at the NIA from 1994 to 2017, out of which 50% were illegal. Babukar C, QTV News.
We will take another short break, and still to come in international and sports news. Welcome back. In international news, the Ethiopian National Defense Force announced that late Thursday that it had killed top officials of the Tigray People's Liberation Front, TPLF. The Tigray crisis has been dragging on since November 3rd, when the Ethiopian federal government launched an offensive in the region. Mamadou Mboj brings us the latest development.
4 key executives of the Tigray People's Liberation Front, the TPLF, have been killed, including its spokesperson, Sekou Touré Getachew, and its former head of the Finance Bureau, Daniel Asifa. 9 other leaders, including former Speaker of the region and the former Ethiopian ambassador in Sudan, have been arrested, according to the BBC report. It is said the first casualty of war is the truth, and there has been no independent verification of the federal government's claim. After his troops captured Mekele, the Tigray regional capital, in late November, Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed declared the military offensive over and ordered what he called, and I quote, the final phase of our rule of law operations, end of quote. The government issued arrest warrants for more than 60 senior leaders of the TPLF, including its chairman, Debretsion Gebremichael, whose whereabouts are said to be unknown, but who has consistently said his people are prepared to die fighting for self-rule. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has so far rebuffed all overtures for international mediation, including the AU's efforts. Citing the Charter of the United Nations in a statement, the Prime Minister insisted that the federal government was engaged in a domestic law enforcement operation, and the principle of non-interference in the internal affairs of a sovereign nation applied. In November, the AU dispatched 3 former African heads of state, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf of Liberia, Joachim Chissano of Mozambique, and Kgalema Motlanthe of South Africa as mediators. But the Prime Minister wouldn't budge and kept to his script that this was a law enforcement issue. Indeed, shortly before the AU envoys arrived, Prime Minister Abiy declared his military operation complete, implying that he doesn't need peacemakers. However, analysts have pointed out that the conflict has already been internationalized because Eritrea is entangled and thousands of refugees are crossing into Sudan. The specter of a protracted conflict in Ethiopia haunts the already fragile Horn of Africa. Ethiopia's neighboring countries, including Somalia, Djibouti, and Sudan, face the threat of being sucked into conflict, creating a security vacuum in the region at a time when Islamist extremist groups are very active on the continent, looking to exploit unstable countries to establish bases. Mr. Abiy's rejection of mediation, according to a senior African diplomat, harkens back to an earlier era in which African civil wars were ended by force of arms, not peace agreements. but this in many cases leaves grievances to fester, forming an undercurrent of threat to peace. Only a negotiated settlement will end the hostilities and provide lasting peace. For QTV News, I am Mamadou Mbouch.
In sports news, two Ivory Coast international footballers, one of whom is making footballing history, have made significant transfers as the European transfer window reopens. More in this report.
18-year-old Ivory Coast winger Amad Diallo's signing to Manchester United is the one that has grabbed most of the headlines. United initially agreed a deal to sign Diallo in October. However, after concerns the deal might be a victim of Britain's departure from the European Union, all the relevant authorities have now given the go-ahead for the deal to go through. The club announced on Thursday that they had finalised the 19 million signing of the player from Italian side Atalanta. Diallo thus makes history, becoming the first player to be signed and registered under the post-Brexit rules. The paperwork over his move was submitted just after midnight on New Year's Day and was approved the same day. The deal for the 18-year-old includes a further £18.2 million add-ons, and he has signed a contract until June 2025 with the option of an extra year. Having watched him for myself, I believe he is one of the most exciting young prospects in the game, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer told BBC. It will take him time to adapt, but his speed, vision and fantastic dribbling ability will stand him in good stead to make the transition. He is a player with all the raw attributes that are needed to be an important player for Manchester United in the years to come. Diallo needed governing body exemption before he could apply for a UK visa, which he did in Rome earlier this week. The player will fly to England once it is approved, and it will not have to quarantine as he was part of Atalanta's bubble. Diallo told the BBC, "I have had time to prepare for this move, both physically and mentally, and I have worked really hard to be ready to make the step up to this amazing club." The other Ivory Coast international on the move is Sébastien Haller, who leaves West Ham United in England for Ajax Amsterdam in Holland. France-born Haller was West Ham's record signing when he joined them for £45 million from German side Eintracht Frankfurt in 2019. However, although the player went on to score 14 goals in 54 matches in all competitions for West Ham, it has become clear that his style does not fit the football philosophy of David Moyes, the current West Ham manager. Haller made his Ivory Coast debut last year, scoring the winner in that game, having previously played for France at junior levels from under 16 to under 21 before switching allegiance to Ivory Coast, where his mother is from. We wish both players every success in their careers. Adi Darami for QTV News.
And now to the CAF Champions League. The CAF Champions League draw made on Friday has not been kind to Senegalese side Teungueth FC, the team who made it through to the group stage of the competition after defeating Raja Casablanca 3-1 on penalty shootout on Tuesday. Now find themselves in a very tough group.
Having waded through mud and rain to emerge victorious, the Senegalese team now face a daunting task in the group stage. Teungueth FC, making their debut in the competition, find themselves in a group alongside three former continental champions. For them, Group D may well be the group of death football fans talked about. Joining them in the group are five-time winners Zamalek of Egypt, four-time champions Esperance of Tunis, and as well as Maloudia Alga, who won the title in 1976. Reigning champions Al Ahly's quest for the 10th title will include trips to DR Congo to play AS Vita Club, Tanzania to face Zimba FC, and to Sudan, where they will face Al Merreikh. The group stage is due to begin on 12th and 13th of February, with the final round-robin games on 9th and 10th of April. Babu Karsi, QTV News.
Before we end this bulletin of the news, let's take a quick look at our main news stories. The drug law enforcement officials of the Gambia made the largest ever seizure of cocaine in the country's history. The First Lady's Foundation on Friday presented medical equipment to the Ministry of Health. The Qtv Municipal Council has presented 30 waste bins to their street cleaners to better equip their cleaners in the effort to keep the streets of the municipality clean. The former Director General of the defunct National Intelligence Agency appears before the TRRC to recount his time in office. In international news, the deadly conflict in Ethiopia's Tigray region shows no sign of abating as the federal government announces it has killed some of the rebellious region's leaders. In sports news, two Ivory Coast international footballers, one of whom is making footballing history, have made significant transfers as the European transfer window reopens. And finally, in sport, Senegalese side Teungueth FC, the first team from their country to make it to the group phase of the CAF Champions League, have been handed a very tough draw. That's all we have for you in this edition of the news. Thank you very much for watching, and we enjoy the pleasure of your company. Have a pleasant night.